One of these is 1080p, the other one is 4K. Which one do you think is which? Have your guesses? Good. Even though this camera is technically worse, you can make it look amazing in OBS without any plugins or extra software. Oh, and if you are experiencing a lot of frame loss during gameplay, stay tuned until the end because there's a solution for that as well. If you are new here, my name is Barry Epps. I'm a Twitch partner on a mission to help 10,000 creators to go full time, and it doesn't matter what camera you have, unless you fix this problem, there is nothing that will help you. Many small streamers will often look at bigger creators or creators with a lot of experience and wonder why their stream looks so good. And I understand that, but that is because they often have spent thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours just to set up their streaming space and their studio. I'm not a particularly big creator, but my camera has set me back $1,200, and as a starting streamer, you simply don't have that luxury. You may only have a budget for something like a C920 or a Facecam Mark II, or you have no budget at all and have to use whatever you have laying around. Cameras try to mimic the human eye, but they are exceptionally bad at it. So they need all the help they can get, and the first place to start is with the sun. When you are walking through a forest and you notice all the colors of the leaves, then that is because light is reaching your eyes. If you'd walk through the same forest at night, first off, it would be a lot creepier, but more importantly, you would not be able to see the different colors that you would normally see. And as someone who suffers from night blindness, I just knocked my head into a tree. And since your webcam is a bad imitation of the human eye, you can only imagine how much more light it is going to need for it to be able to see well. So that is where we are going to start. You're going to need to make sure you have some pretty decent lighting. The easiest and cheapest way to do that is by setting yourself next to a nice big window and letting in all that natural light. But that isn't going to help you when you are streaming in the evenings or if you don't have a nice big window, does it? In that case, it can be really helpful to get some studio lighting. A ring light is the simplest way to go, but I don't particularly like how they look and how they give like a ring of light in your eyes. So instead, I opted to invest $70 in two big newer softboxes right at the start, and they've been with me ever since. Now that the camera has plenty of light, it is time we look at the settings. And because we want this to work with any camera, we're not going to use any external software. Just OBS settings. Once you've opened your OBS, we will start by adding a camera source and calling it Webcam. Pick your camera and set the resolution to 1920 by 1080 and the FPS to highest FPS. It can happen that this setting causes a lot of lag with some cameras. If that is the case, set it to match output FPS and that should be fine. For video format, you can leave it on auto, as this changes depending on the webcam that you use. In the color space, we have a few options, and the trick here is higher number better. The color space doesn't really dictate how much color is in your image. It tells you how much it can display. Rec 709 has been the standard since the 90s, but with 4K becoming the standard, the Rec 2020 and Rec 2100 formats were introduced, which can show a lot more color. And because we want to show all the colors, we are going to set the color range to full. This has the additional benefit that is better able to handle light and dark spots on your screen. With this all set and done, it is time for us to head into the next step. And for this, we are going to open the configure video menu. And the first thing we are going to do is turn all the auto ticks off. Set your gain to 0, and in the second tab, set your exposure to -5 or lower. If you set it above -5, something weird happens and a lot of lag is introduced, and no one really wants to see a 5 FPS slideshow instead of a full-on camera. I still don't know why this happens, but it seems to be a general problem for a lot of webcams that I've had a look at, either myself or in reviews by other people. Now we are going to take the gain and drag it to a point where the dark spots are not just a void and the light spots aren't blown out. Clearly, this is too high. Maybe around here? My forehead isn't the beacon of Gondor at the moment, and the background is well defined. Next up is the contrast, saturation, hue, and sharpness, which are all the different settings that are going to improve your visuals. For me, the curtain behind me is supposed to be black. It clearly isn't. So I need to up the contrast on this quite a bit. Contrast is sort of like an elastic band. The more you pull it, the higher the tension, the longer the elastic band gets. Contrast does a similar thing for your camera, but for black and white. The higher the contrast, the bigger the difference between your deep blacks and bright whites are going to be. Saturation takes the colors of your image and makes them more or less vibrant. If you have too much saturation, the colors will look unnatural, but having too little makes it look like you're in an old-timey movie, washed out or even completely grayscale. Look at my camera. I don't feel my skin tone is very good and looks washed out. So I'm going to up this a little bit. Don't do this too far though, it's gonna look very unnatural. What hue does is that it can change how green or magenta the image is. Some cameras, especially cheaper ones, suffer from an issue where the skin tones are not displayed correctly and they introduce what is called green shift, even though sometimes it shifts magenta. If your skin tone isn't good and your camera allows it, then you can drag this left and right to see if you can make your skin tone look good. But before you do that, I'd look at the white balance first. Depending on the lights you use, the color of the lights can change a lot. Tungsten bulbs are very yellow. Fluorescent, on the other hand, is a lot more blue. This is called the color temperature of the light, as it shifts between cold, which is more blue, and warm, which is more yellow. Some lights even allow you to choose the exact white temperature that you want. If yours doesn't, that is fine. We can just have a play and see where it looks good. I quite like mine to be here, around the 4700 Kelvin mark, and now you can adjust the hue to make sure your skin tone isn't shifted. The next one is sharpness, and sharpness is a way for your camera to show more detail. And I don't mean when you are streaming and your camera gets all blocky, but that is something we're gonna have a look at later in the video. Right now we talk about the detail in the camera, such as my face. Take a look at my forehead, for example. You can't see much detail. It just looks like a blank slate even when I try and increase my wrinkles. Not that I have to, but hey. But those sort of details is exactly what we want to show in your face. So let's drag it up a bit. You can also immediately see more detail in my beard. If you push this too far, you might be able to see white or black outlines and every single little thing will be highlighted on your features, which is probably not what you want. Click apply, but before you close the frame, make sure to take a screenshot of both tabs. OBS has a tendency to reset things, so save them somewhere you can easily find them and get rid of that headache. Now your camera is set up and ready, but there is one more issue which every streamer hits at some point, and it is something you can prevent from happening very easily. You will be streaming and playing a game, but your GPU can only just keep up with your bitrate. So everything turns super blocky and now no one can recognize your face anymore. It can take up to 30 seconds for Twitch to recover as well, which is way too long. So let's make sure your face is always in focus with this plugin. And it has a name and a half. The Encoder Region of Interest Editor. Once you've downloaded it, extract it into your OBS folder and reboot your OBS. Head into the Tools menu and open the Regions of Interest Editor. There's a lot you can do with this feature that can help you get the most out of your stream, but right now we are only interested in one feature, and that is the Scene Item Region. At the top left, select your game scene. Then in the bottom left, click the plus and add a scene item region and pick your camera. Make sure not to set your priority too high. 25 to 50% should be good. Remember to enable the priority feature if it's not automatically turned on. And you don't need smoothing or outer priority for this, so that's all great. You just need to click the Enable Region of Interest feature in the far bottom left and close the window. Your camera will now look great no matter what happens on your stream. If you are looking to grow your stream, then a good looking camera can definitely help. But what is far more important is having good quality audio. There's a reason I say that 80% of having a technically good stream is by having good audio. The biggest mistake that most streamers make is that they forget about their microphone. So if you want to make sure your microphone sounds amazing in 3 easy steps, then check out the video right here. And as always, stream better, stream smart.